Oh, awesome. Well, you're like 900% more awesome than I am. I've never been here before and had a problem finding parking, and as well as the rooms themselves. So it's taking a little bit for folks to get in here. So thank you for being here. Obviously, the name of this session is, come on in. The name of this session is Taking Your Social Media Program from 2D to 3D. And it's pretty cool. I think you're going to get a lot out of it. I'm kind of surprised, though, because as I watched the keynote, a lot of what they talked about, a lot of what they answered, was a lot of what we're going to cover in here. So it's actually really good, because I'm going to expound on a little bit more. So if you hadn't heard of some of these concepts or some of these things that Nick and Van and Blake talked about, we're actually going to talk about it a little bit more in here and kind of flesh it out a little bit. So it'll be really good. So let's go ahead and get started. So who am I? So I've spent 7 years in the social marketing space. 6 of those years I spent on the brand side. Where is Monica at? Monica is right over here. Monica came to one of my sessions at one of my previous employers, which was a coffee roaster here in town. And so I spent 6 years on the brand side for local coffee roasters. And then the past year, I've spent on the agency side, been working doing social strategy and content for brands like Coca-Cola, Wells Fargo, Chick-fil-A, UPS. So working at Engage. I actually just started working at a new agency this past week on Tuesday, a new agency in town called Dalton Agency. And so for the past year, though, I've spent it on the agency side. So I spent it both on the brand side from a brand's perspective and then a year on the agency side. And I kind of feel like I've got a good grasp on how things work now. And it's really kind of easy and simple. We're going to make it simple today. So that's who I am. My name is Jason Dominy. You can follow me on Twitter, or if you, and I guess I should have, now that I think about it, hindsight, I should have put it on the screen. But you can actually follow me on Twitter at Jason Dominy. It's just my name. I'm sorry, I couldn't think of anything more witty than that. At Jason was already taken. That would be cool. But it's just at Jason Dominy. I've been in the social space since it started. Just after social started, I realized that it was going to be a really good tool for business. I was working for a coffee roaster, and they didn't have a marketing budget. And I thought, well, here's the thing. That coffee roaster in Charlotte had been there for 20 years, and no one in the area really knew who they were, which I found really challenging because they've been there for 20 years. If you don't know who they are after them being in your community for 20 years, how can I fix that? And social was just coming in. As a matter of fact, I just pulled up my first tweet last night, and you can do that through Twitter. You can find the archive, and my tweet was from 2007. I think it was May of 2007, and it said, trying to figure this whole Facebook and Twitter thing out, which I thought was pretty cool. It's like my social infancy, if you will. But that was May of 2007. So I've been in the social space ever since then, mainly just doing marketing. What is 2D to 3D? So what is 2D to 3D? So how many of you have heard of this 2D to 3D thing from me before this class? Taylor probably has. Okay, so 2D to 3D was this really kind of interesting project that I had. I realized that a lot of people who followed me on Twitter were people that I didn't know, and I felt like that was kind of weird, right? Because right now I have close to 3,000 followers, and I know it's not possible for me to know all of them, but there was a lot of people that followed me around the Atlanta area who, when I looked at their profile, because I check it every day to see who follows me, this is something that I do that's really important to me, and I recommend that you do it too. I go through my Twitter followers list, and I actually, every day, I check to see who followed me. And if it's like Jimmy's Crab Shack, I block it, okay? I want my Twitter followers to be real people that I'm going to engage with, potentially, or get some sort of value out of. That's just me. That's that whole quality over quantity thing. So if you look through my Twitter followers list, and I welcome you to do it, you won't see Jimmy's Window Repair, or you won't see spam or bots. You'll see real people or real businesses that I connect with on a regular basis. That's just important to me. So there's 2,900 followers, and what I did was I just started going through my followers list, and looking to see who was in Atlanta. I would see, oh, their bio says they're in Atlanta. I would look through their tweets. This is an interesting person I want to follow. So then I follow them back, and then I would just send them a direct message and say, hey, you know, I just want to say thanks for following me. Let's get together for coffee or lunch sometime. And it's really interesting because I just started meeting people that were following me. And I made an assumption from the very beginning that if they're following me, we have something in common, right? Because why else would they follow me? Unless they're Jimmy's Window Repair and they just want followers, which I'm not going to follow them back. So if they follow me, that means that they're following me for a reason, and that reason is potentially, ideally, because we have something in common. So what is it that we have in common? That's what the 2D to 3D interactions are about. They're about finding out what we have in common, right? So the whole idea of the 2D to 3D is, you know, who are you? Why are you following me? And what can I do to support you? And so I literally would just go grab coffee and lunch with these folks, and I just ask their story. Come on in. So I would just ask their story. I would just say, you know, just tell me a little bit about yourself, tell me about what you do, and I would just engage with them on a personal level. And what I found is, I would say about 90% of the people that I've had those lunches and coffees with are people that I stay in contact with and communicate with as a friend most every day. And it's really interesting because these are people who I wouldn't have previously had more contact with other than just potentially reading their tweets or tweets back. And so that's what the 2D, 3D thing is about, okay? So far I've done more than 20 connectors, and as you can see, here's some right here. This is just a handful of them. I have a ton of these, and I just put some together. As you can see, a lot of different, I don't really pick and choose anybody in particular. Like, I don't pick based on sex, based on job, I don't pick any of that. I go through and look through there, and if there's somebody on there that I see that lives in Atlanta, I'm actually going to engage with them.
Hey, Jason.
Yeah. Hey, so it's John. Hey, John, what are you doing here?
I'm here to check out what you're talking about and learn a little bit more about social marketing.
Awesome. Well, so this is John Brady, and John Brady is dating Amy. John Brady has a greyhound named Penny. John Brady loves classic cars. He loves hiking, and he loves art. That's John Brady.
That's correct. Across the board, I am John Brady. Jason Dominy, I know, enjoys food and drink as a social event to share with his friends. He is a Mini Cooper aficionado. So right there, cars and cars.
Yes.
The community, virtual and real, are very important to him. He has a love and devotion to his wife, April, his friends, and his community, and his faith. And I think coffee, coffee, coffee.
Yes.
Your brand work, my interest, I'm a consumer, he was a brand guy. We met knowing coffee. So.
Awesome. Well, thank you, John. So, in case you didn't figure it out, I asked John to come. John is one of the first people.
I'm a plant.
John is one of the first people that I had a 2D to 3D interaction with, and John and I communicate on a regular basis since then, and that's probably been a year ago or more. A year ago or more. He was one of the original 2D to 3D connections I have, and we stay in contact on a regular basis. And so I asked him to come because it's a perfect example of that. And so as we talk about 2D to 3D and what does it look like in the flesh, that's what it looks like. But the better question is, and I'll show you this too, this is kind of cool. This is AJ Viola. AJ Viola is a pastor and a coffee aficionado in Raleigh. But this 2D to 3D actually happened in Boone, North Carolina on a trip to Boone. We realized through Twitter that we were in the same town. We connected, we went and had a cup of coffee, and so that's AJ. In there as well, Dan Holm, who heads up all of social media for Blooming Brands, which runs Outback and Carrabba's. So I had a 2D to 3D with Dan Holm, who basically manages all of the social media for Outback. And there's just a ton of different, you can Come on in.
Thank you.
There's a ton of different interactions, and it's really interesting because you get to hear people's story, but you get to learn about them and know about them on a deeper level, which creates this loyalty and engagement which lasts a long time. Like John, I asked John, he said, hey, would you be willing to come? And he's like, absolutely, I would. And that's loyalty, right?
You know what I love about this? It gets you to lift your head up. I press this down.
Yeah, exactly.
You're up, you're engaged with in real 3D.
In real 3D, that's exactly right. That's the whole concept of it. So what does this have to do with my business, though? And this is everything to do with what you're talking about. That's let's make social again, okay? So there was a giant conversation going on in the social space around the fact that a lot of people were saying social media is making us less connected and more disconnected from those around us. And I personally was angry about that because I disagreed with it. And I was angry because I felt like, for me personally, it's made my life more rich. It's made me more connected to those around me. And I'll give you one example, okay? I was living in Charlotte. I didn't really have a lot of contact with my family here in Atlanta, just because, you know, that involves calling, and, you know, it's a lot of work to pick up the phone and call. And so, for whatever reason, though, my closest cousin and I didn't really communicate a lot. She lives in Marietta, I lived in Charlotte. And when Facebook first came in, we added each other's friends, and then all of a sudden we were talking every other day. And we were talking about, asking her about her kids, she was asking me about my work, and obviously, boom, we were more connected as a family. So that's just one example, but how many of you feel like social media is making you more connected? Raise your hand. Okay, that's a great majority. How many of you feel like it's making you more disconnected? At the same time. That's true, actually. It really is very true. And the reality is that it does a little bit of both, but it makes you a lot more connected. And so when I read that quote, it made me really angry. And that's how I came up with this idea of the 2D to 3D. It's how do we make social again? How do we use it for the benefit of our lives, both personally and professionally? And so what does it have to do with your business? We're going to make social again. Let's speak above the noise. You have a timeline just like I do. When you read through your timeline, it's filled with garbage, cats. Not that cats are bad, but it's filled with like cats and all of these other sorts of things that you have to scroll down to get to the meat of what you really want to see, right? So how do we speak above the noise? Well, we say something that's worth listening to. I think about this all the time. You know, in my last position at Engage, I was writing content for 3 Coca-Cola brands, which is, you know, it's pretty cool and pretty stressful at the same time. But what I realized is I wanted to write content that I would read. I mean, it's pretty simple. I mean, I am the target market. So when I scroll through my timeline, what are the things that I look at? What are the things that I want to see? That's the stuff that you want to write more of. So if you're just starting content marketing for your brand, whether you're a small business or a medium-sized business or a large business, write and create content that you want to read yourself. It's really simple. And then last, let's build loyalty through engagement. And that's what I meant by engagement with John. You can see that's a personal engagement. But how do we do that in a professional setting? How do we do that in a business setting? Well, it's really simple. We build that loyalty through regular engagement that's genuine. Okay? So, listen. And this is, if you were at the keynote, they talked about this. Listen, who are your fans and followers? If you don't know who your fans and followers are, how can you communicate with them? How can you give them what they're asking for? How can you meet them as customers, give them the best customer service experience? If you don't know who they are, look through your fans and followers and see who they are. And not just that, but why are they following you? Again, that whole 2D to 3D, I want to know, why did John follow me? What is it that he saw in me that he wanted to follow? And as a business, why do your fans follow you? Because obviously you want to give them that. This is the cool thing about social media, at least on Twitter, is that it's totally voluntary. If they follow you, it's because they want to hear what you're saying. If not, they won't follow you. So if they're following you, find out what is the reason why they're following you and give them that. It's really simple. And then last, what are they saying about you? And this is really, really important. I can't emphasize this enough. social listening is the most underused and most important tool in social marketing today. Social listening. What do I mean? Listen, what are your fans and followers saying about you? Okay? It's highly important for you to know what they're saying about you, both positive and negative. You heard Nick talk about it from IHG's perspective. IHG, Intercontinental Hotel Groups, a Holiday Inn. What are people saying about Holiday Inns around the world? Okay, it's really important for them to know, because if there's an issue, they need to be on top of that, right? So I obviously, like I said, I handled the 3 Coke brands. Every day I did a simple Twitter search of the Coke brands that I was in charge of. I did a simple Twitter search of the brand and any sort of semblances of that brand. So just for an example, Gold Peak Tea, okay, which is a ready-to-drink tea line. So I would do hashtag Gold Peak Tea, hashtag Gold Peak, hashtag Gold Tea. I would just listen. What are people saying about it, so that I could stay on top of whatever issues might come up, or thanking people that were being loyal fans. So listen. This is a great example of what listening gives you, and this is a great example of how to benefit from it. This is an interaction that I had, and as you can see at the top, I was on my way to work, and I realized blue polo, khakis, tigers, I've become a walking Gap commercial, right? And I was being kind of, not self-deprecating, but I was kind of being funny, you know, like I looked down at myself and I thought, holy cow, like I've become a Gap commercial. It's kind of ironic because I kind of try to buck trends, and there you go, I've become a Gap commercial. And out of the blue, 4 days later, JCPenney's interacted. Now, I'll be honest with you, I've not been always a huge fan of JCPenney's social strategy. I think their Super Bowl mittens thing was a complete disaster and a bomb, if you know what that was. It was just, it was weird, it was wacky, and like it was a swing and a miss. But in this scenario, out of the blue, they responded, Jason Dominy, we want to send you some free pants. Please DM us your email address and we'll send you a voucher for a pair courtesy of Hager Company. I was shocked, right? I mean, it was like totally out of the blue, okay? It was so weird and random, but that is what listening does. Listening gives you the opportunity to reach out to potential fans and current fans and make a difference, create loyal engagement, right? And as you can see, I took them up on it. Who doesn't like free pants? And I do. And it said, thanks to JCPenney's, I'm the proud owner of a new pair of Hager Company Life khakis, and it's cool. They're made of 40% recycled materials, which I thought was awesome. And as you can see, they responded back the next day. We're glad you like the Life khakis. We agree that it's cool. They're green too. Now, I want you to understand something. How did they connect with me originally? I don't follow JCPenney's on Twitter. That's exactly right. Good call. Khakis. They searched khakis and found me talking about it. And they looked at my profile and they thought, this guy has some sort of influence, right? And so, boom, they made that connection. If they weren't listening for khakis, they would have never made that connection, and they would have never had that opportunity to make that happen. Can I tell you how happy I was that that happened? Yeah, I was happy. I mean, I'll be honest with you, JCPenney's is going through a lot of restructuring, and I mean, it's good for a company to be doing things like that. I was actually surprised, to be honest. And then the whole Super Bowl thing, and then I was like, well, now you're screwing up. You're doing well? That's not so well. So, connect, okay? This is also important, connect. And so, what do I mean by connect? Be genuine. What do I mean by be genuine? I mean, I know this seems kind of self-explanatory, but I took my first Uber trip November 12th. I only know it because that's why I had to look at my Twitter search. I took Uber for the first time, and it was really great because I was kind of curious as how this whole thing worked. How many of you have used Uber before? Did you like it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You liked it?
I love it. I mean, it's like a taxi service, but it's all built into one. So an app, just drop it in, you pick it up. It's already connected to your credit card, so you don't have to like find cash.
Yeah.
It's great when you live in the city.
It was a great experience. I was blown away by it. So I got in the cab, and again, I was kind of curious as how this whole thing went down, so I'm a natural skeptic. So I got in the cab, my cab driver, my limo driver, well, that's definitely my cab, but my limo driver's name was King. He told me that up front. He said, my name is King, and I'm going to be taking care of you. I'm going to make sure you have the best trip you've ever had in your life. And as we began to ride from my office at Engage, which is in Midtown, to over where the airport is, he started telling me his story. He said, hey, you know, so I said, how did you get into Uber? And he started telling me his story. And he told me the story of how he and his wife had moved here. He was homeless. He started working as a taxi driver to try to earn some income. He realized that he really had a passion for talking to people and for connecting with people, and so he thought, I want to do something with this. So he started doing that to the point where he could get a job with a limo service. Basically, they charge him for the car, and so he makes a small cut off of each of those runs. And he said, I do it just because I love people and I want to put my kids through school. And as he was just telling me the story, and I could tell he was totally genuine. This wasn't like, you know, if you've ever seen the show Undercover Boss, you ever notice that every single person that they connect with on that show has some sort of issue? I mean, I love the show, don't get me wrong, but I always wonder, like, every single person that they connect with on that show has some sort of, like, my mom's in the hospital, she's dying next week, and so it's kind of curious, but I knew that he was genuinely just being absolutely genuine about his story, and I connected with that, you know. And this is a cool follow-up. So he dropped me off, and I said, hey, thanks, you know, super nice to meet you. He gave me his card. He said, I'm King. If you ever need limo service, let me know. And I'll be honest with you, at that point, I said, if I ever need any kind of service like this again, I'm definitely going to use this guy, right? So I went to the event. It was an event at the Holiday Inn at the airport, and after I got done, I called Uber, or I put the Uber thing on there, and lo and behold, King is on his way. I said, man, that's phenomenal. Like, that's great, because I mean, I'm not going to have to go through this whole meet the person and do the whole thing again, right? And it was King, and he said, well, I'll tell you what I did. He said, I knew that you would only be about 45 minutes or an hour, so I just stayed over here at the airport and did some runs around the airport so I could pick you up. Wow. I was blown away. I mean, to this day, I was just like, man, that was cool. And he said, and as I got in the car to start going back, he said, now I want to hear your story. And I was just like,
do you pay more for that? Uber's rates?
I mean, I tipped him more. For sure I did. Yeah, I was getting goosebumps. Because you just don't get interactions like that, right? So after we got done, I told him as I was on my way back, I said, well, you know, I'm kind of crazy because I do social media, and I'm going to tweet about this now. I'm going to tweet about how good this was and how good your service was. And I did. And the next day, he retweeted it and said, thanks for riding with me on Twitter. Like, how cool is that? That is being genuine, people. That is connecting with your consumer. That's connecting with your fan. I will, you know, if I ever need anything like that, I will only ride with King. Not that I have to use it again, but if I do, I'm only going to him. That's being genuine to your fans and followers. Okay? Adding value. Adding value, what do I mean by that? Well, what are the tips and things that you can provide to the people who follow you? One of the things that I do at night is I go through, I have an iPad, and I have a couple of apps on there, a few apps on there. I have Zite, Pulse, and you might want to write these down if you have an iPad or even iPhone, because some of them are iOS. But I use Zite, Z-I-T-E, Pulse, P-U-L-S-E, News 360, and Dig. Dig has a mobile app. And basically, I create a list of the things that I want to read about, the things that I'm interested in. And at the end of the day, usually around 9, my wife and I are sitting, watching TV, hanging out. This is my wife in the background. Hey, my wife in the background. So we're just sitting there. Hey, how's it going? Glad to have you. We're just sitting watching TV, and I pull up my iPad and I look through to see if there are things that I think are really cool, really interesting. And if they are, I will shoot them out via my social networks based on whichever networks I feel like they need to go. So I don't shoot them all to Facebook or to Twitter. I shoot them where I think they're appropriate. And what I mean by that, I have my own social strategy personally. Okay? And this is something that I can't emphasize strategy enough either. Listening is really important, but having a strategy is way more important. I have a personal strategy for my social media program. Facebook is very personal, okay? That's where I get really deep and personal about the things that are going on in my life. Twitter is a little bit of personal, but a lot of professional and just general life. And then, of course, I have a Tumblr page, which is my blog, which is basically my name.tumblr.com, and that's incredibly personal. Okay, so I will go onto those under those things, site, whatever it is, and I'll just shoot that content out to my followers. Why? Because I want to add value to them, right? And what I find is I get a lot of interaction and a lot of engagement around the stuff that I push out. Why? Because I figure if I like it, there's a good chance that a lot of my fans and followers like it too, because we like a lot of the same things, right? So if I send out an article about what's the best beer in Belgium, there's a good chance that a lot of my friends and followers are going to like that because we like a lot of the same things, and food, and social media, and on and on. So what are the things that you can do to add value to your fans and followers? So if you're anybody in here run a bakery? That'd be cool if you did. So if you run a bakery, what are the things that you can talk about with bread and baked goods to your fans on a regular basis that add value to their life? Okay? How can you connect with them that way? And then last, be thankful. Be very thankful for the people who follow you. Show your thanks and appreciation in a genuine way. That's extremely important. I can't emphasize that enough either. Be thankful for the people who follow you, because, I mean, I'll be honest, in doing social media for large brands like Coca-Cola and Wells Fargo, they gain a lot of people and they lose a lot of people. So in some months, they're losing as many people as they are gaining. So when I do analytics, I go, well, we gained 500 followers and we lost 486 followers. So be thankful for those people who are following you and add value to them through being genuine. All right, here's a couple interactions that I was a part of. So at the top you see Fuse Strawberry Tea is my new fave. And I don't know why fave needed 3 V's. Maybe that's what the kids are doing these days, but there you go. And obviously my response was, and you are ours, hashtag BFF, okay? Here's the interesting thing, is that she doesn't know who I am, right? But if you read that, it sounds very similar to her, which means I had a genuine engagement with her that spoke to her as if I were her, because I really am. She might think I'm a girl. I definitely her. I don't know many guys that use BFF hashtag. That's why I said that. If you're a guy and use that, there's no offense. So that's the top one. This one right here, my wife and I went to Parrish in Inman Park for a brunch on New Year's. And I'm friends with a chef there, but he was out of town. So we went there and I checked in on Foursquare, which is, you can see it denoted here, and it just said first time here and first meal of 2014. Mr. Zeb, he's our friend that's the chef there, and they responded, nice, thanks. Okay? They picked up on that through listening. They picked up on the fact that we checked in there and they said, nice, thanks. Now, I check into places all the time. I'm a super user with Foursquare, and I've never had any business respond back to me on Twitter through checking in on Foursquare, but they did. Now, do you think I appreciated that? Yeah, I absolutely appreciated that. All right, that's being thankful. All right, it's important that you invest. It's really important that you encourage those people that are following you and the people that you're connected with. Be a small glimmer of hope. All of the campaigns that I was a part of for Coca-Cola all had some sort of element of be a shining light in the day of the people who follow you. And it's really simple. To be honest with you, you're going to be really surprised if you read through your timeline and there's something in there that encourages you in a genuine way. Why? Because there's a lot of noise, remember? And so if you can in some way encourage them with some sort of bit of hope, something that makes them smile, something that makes them laugh, it's going to go a long way. Number 2, support. Make customer service a top priority. This is extremely important. Make customer service a top priority. I had a friend the other day, I saw in my Twitter timeline, a friend of mine was tweeting to AT&T customer care, hey, do you guys have anybody who reads this stuff? I've been trying to contact you for several days and no one will get back with me. Okay, do you think that bode well for him? No, not at all, actually. Do you think it made him more angry? Yeah, okay. If AT&T had handled it within an hour, do you think it would have made him feel a little bit better? Yeah, it definitely would have. It would make me feel a little bit better. Even if they didn't resolve the situation, if I knew they were listening and cared and were working on it in some sort of fashion, it would make me feel a lot better. If you have Twitter and are not using it to respond to customer service issues on a regular basis, you're doing it wrong. I don't know any other way to say it. That's what they talked about in the keynote. You know, if you've got a platform and you're not using it to its full potential and you're not willing to really like seize it, grab a hold of it, then don't do it. I mean, honestly, I'm a huge fan of quality over quantity. I would rather you have one or two platforms that you use and that you're extremely active and you have tight reins over, rather than having 8 that you check every once in a while. Because the reality is customer service is mainly happens now through social media. And I know that in the Coke brands that I handle, every day there were people that sent Facebook messages. They didn't call Coca-Cola's headquarters. They sent Facebook messages and tweets. Hey, this happened. Can you help me? And honestly, I had to handle those customer service issues on a regular basis every single day. More and more customer service issues are handled via social media than the traditional methods every day, and I think it's only going to continue to do that. I'll be honest, a lot of times I try to do things customer service wise via social media because I can't get anywhere with regular ways. If I email somebody or I call them, do you think that I'll get anything back? No, I won't. And if I post it on Twitter, I have 2,800 followers. I can guarantee you that I'll get a response within that day, for sure. All right? So as you can see, it's extremely important. So customer service, support. Check out Warby Parker Help and Delta Assist. If you want to see 2 people who do it right, Delta Assist is really great. Okay, our friend Rachel Rensink is the head of social media at Delta. Delta Assist is really good at handling those and trying to take care of the ones that they can take care of. They're really good at it. Warby Parker Help. Okay, my wife just had her first experience with Warby Parker. She's wearing these stylish glasses today, and as you can see on the top, this is the interaction. April Dominy, that's her, says, my Warby Parker glasses came in, and you get to help me choose. Which do you like better, top or bottom ones, right? She posted a picture for her friends, and through listening, Warby Parker said, we love that summer green color on you, April. And she's wearing them today. Okay? Now, with that being said, they didn't have to join into that, honestly. She was sending that out to her friends, and the fact that Warby Parker could come in there, and I've looked at their feed. They respond to a ton of people, but the fact that they responded, looked at the picture, and did that goes a long way, right? This interaction right here, this is a guy who said, Jordan says, when are we getting our free samples at Make It Neo? Me and Shane Dobbin might have to switch to at Dasani Drops. Well, I manage Dasani's accounts, and that's Dasani Drops. And I thought, well, you know what? Here's a great opportunity for us to jump in there and do this. So we sent him a bunch of Dasani Drops. Okay? I don't know what Mio did. I don't really care, to be honest with you, because I'm Dasani. So we sent him drops, and he loved it, and we created a new fan. See how that works? It's super simple. That's what I wanted to get this across, is that I've been on the brand side and I've been on the agency side, and it doesn't really matter. It's super simple. It's make social social, be personal, make 2D 3D, and you can do it on a regular basis. And again, I did it with Coca-Cola. They're the largest brand in the world. Now, did I become friends with them and have coffee with them? No, of course not. But I created genuine engagements with them that increases loyalty, and I promise you, these people are going to be fans of Dasani. I mean, as long as the product, follows through what you did. With that being said, I want to thank you for your time.